Well, hello there, fellow geeks and geekettes, and welcome to yet another video. This is yet another recommendation video, and today's video is focusing on the Green Lantern, the best of Green Lantern there is, and in my eyes, and remember, this is only an opinion and recommendation of one geek from Central Europe, so you might find that you like other stuff, but, from what I can tell and from what I've heard and read, this is the most popular Green Lantern comic book series there is and there has ever been so far. And looking at the comic book industry these days, that will ever be. We are talking about the Green Lantern run written by Jeff Johns and illustrated by such great talent as Ethan Van Sciver and Ivan Rice. Now, there are many ways how you can read these comic books. This run, I will be using the word run a lot. Run is basically a series of, interconnected stories, one longer story written by one author and usually drawn by one or two artists, sometimes more, but ideally just one. But in this case, we've got more. So we are talking about the run on Green Lantern as written by Jeff Johns. The easiest way you can read this run is by buying the 3 omnibus volumes of Green Lantern by Jeff Johns and the Blackest Night omnibus. You've got the collected series in its entirety, plus one of the greatest events in the history of DC Comics, Blackest Night, which is absolutely necessary for Jeff Johns' Green Lantern, and we are talking about the Blackest Night here, of course. This might seem a little bit pricey to you because omnibus editions usually cost about around $100 per a volume, but you've got like 1,000 pages, right? But you can find it cheaper online, of course, on sites like instactrades.com. So we've got 3 volumes of Green Lantern by Jeff Johns in omnibus editions and the Blackest Night. But if you find yourself lucky to find the collected editions in trade paperbacks and hardcovers, and all of them, I have to say, or most of them, are sold out. This is the order, the reading order. You will, of course, have to start with Green Lantern Rebirth, which was written by Jeff Johns and illustrated by Ethan Van Sciver, and it gives you everything you need to get into Green Lantern. It provides you with the history of Hal Jordan, the protagonist, the main character, the chief of the Green Lanterns from Earth. Green Lantern Corps being this intergalactic police force that is upholding peace and prosperity in galaxy. And Hal Jordan is, in my eyes, the best of the Green Lanterns, and he is most certainly the most popular of the Green Lanterns. In the 1980s, he lost popularity a little bit. So that's why in the 1990s, DC Comics, they decided to get rid of him. And they made him go mad. And kill his fellow Green Lanterns. And they made him into a villain, basically, into Parallax. And another Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner, took his place. Now, in Green Lantern Rebirth, Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver, they reintroduce Hal Jordan as the hero, the main character. His salvation comes, and he becomes the greatest Green Lantern of them all once again. I'm not going to go into the story or the spoilers very much because I want you to enjoy the story for yourself in its fullest. So I am only going to provide you with the reading order of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. Then you have to buy the No Fear trade paperback. Then The Revenge of the Green Lanterns, the Hal Jordan trade paperback, and then Sinestro Corps War comes, which is an awesome, fantastic event in which the Yellow or the Sinestro Corps is introduced First, we only got the Green Lantern Corps, which is, as I said, the intergalactic police force. But Jeff Johns, along with Ethan Van Sciver, they came up with the so-called emotional spectrum, which is basically the color of the rainbow, right? And each of these colors then represent one emotion, so that green represents willpower, and red represents rage, and yellow or anger or hate, and yellow represents fear, and indigo represents compassion, and blue represents hope, and pink represents love, and orange represents avarice, right? So you've got a group of lanterns for each and every color of the rainbow, and they get developed through the run written by Jeff Johns, illustrated by Ivan Reis, by Ethan Van Sciver, and so on and so forth. And eventually and gradually we get to the main event. But then, next, you need to read Rage of the Red Lanterns. As I said, gradually more and more colors are introduced. Red Lanterns are my second favorite of the core, the first one being the Green Lantern. We've got such awesome characters there, like Atrocitus, who was designed by Ethan Van Sciver and has become one of the most popular villains of the DC Comics universe. Or Dexter, a very cute cat Red Lantern who was introduced and developed by Shane Davis, one of the other greatest artists in DC Comics, who now publishes his own work. I urge you, my friends, to back his comic books on Indiegogo. Then we've got Agent Orange. And finally, you can get to the Blackest Night, which, as I said, is considered by many people the greatest event in the history of DC Comics. It is a pure and true action story, a sci-fi action badass comic book about superheroes. A good old style, good old fashioned comic book about action, adventure, and space adventure. And one of the last great comic books published by DC Comics of this grand scale. You can't compare today's comic books to these. So, believe me, my friends, if you want to get into one of the greatest superheroes of all time, you don't need to go back to the 70s, to the 80s. You just need to get yourself the 3 omnibus editions, plus the Blackest Night story, and you're good. And you've got reading material for months, because it's a lot of reading material. Of course, you could get additional stories like the Green Lantern Corps or the Emerald Warriors and so on and so forth. But it is quite sufficient for you to only read this main series, Green Lantern, plus the Blackest Night. And believe me, you are going to enjoy yourself. You're going to read great story, very well written stories, great written characters, and fantastic, beautiful art from Ethan Van Sciver, Shane Davis, Ivan Reis. Awesome, awesome talent. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about the Green Lantern run by Jeff Johns, if you've read it, if this helped you in any way, and if you are going to, read it. So yeah, that will be all. Bye.